the second person doesn't defend themselves for a very long time. And then eventually it blows up and they're punching each other in the face. Like that's kind of how it happens typically with bullying. This is more of a back and forth. And I think basically the whole gist of all of this is that despite all of our differences, that we're way more alike than we'd like to admit, because when the first girl gets knocked down and misses the transport, she's very quick to walk by and brush her back. And then she draws the picture and sends it to her screen, which I still maintain is ridiculous. But it is. I'm sorry. She was walking in that direction. I don't even think the child would have tried it, knowing that you can see through the screens. It bothers me a lot that you can see through those screens. It really, really, really bothers me. I know you think I'm blaming the teacher, but here's the deal. I don't think a teacher looking at a screen that's clear would have missed it. That's my point.
You mean who originated it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was standing there when it happened. She wasn't in the other side of the room. She wasn't talking to another child. She wasn't checking another child's work. She was looking at those two children.
Yeah. I kind of felt this. To me, it was. I understand what they were trying to do, and that was just, push this other kid over the edge, right? So I understood why they did it the way they did, but I agree with you. It was flawed. You would be able to know exactly where it came from and who did it instantaneously with that kind of technology. But the poor kid got blamed for that too. I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
and again, they make a point to show you the image of her drawing it from behind the screen, so that it's the mirror image of it,
Mm-hmm.
Stop worrying about showing us your technology is so shiny, squeaky clean, and just put it back on that thing and we solve that problem. If it's a regular monitor, we don't have this issue because she's on the other side of the monitor, right? If we have the teacher just turn around to look at another student's work for 1 second, we don't have that problem. The other problem with that scene, and that scene really drove me crazy. The girl gets it on her monitor with the teacher 1.5 feet away, and instead of trying to even delete it, she looks over to the other girl first. She looks to Lil, right? Why would you do that with a teacher 1 foot away in a screen that has no back on it? Come on.
Oh, come on, man. You weren't a kid at 12 years old thinking that you were smarter than the teacher.
Yes, but not when they were 1 foot away. I thought of that when they were 6 feet, 7 feet away.
I think I was caught doing dumb things thinking.
Well, and I thought it was really fun because, who of us didn't pass notes?
No, I get it, but if you're my teacher,
idea.
If you're walking down the aisle of my seat, that's not when I'm passing the note, though. That's brazen.
I have caught notes in transit, and I'm like, what? Yeah, why are you doing this right in front of my face?
Then they're idiots. But I don't take these two as idiots either.
That's what happens when you're 12 years old. You're not thinking things through.
I don't know. It just it annoyed me.
Well, it was very realistic for this teacher's life. So I thought it was great. And I wish, because when I have kids on the computer, I wish that I could see and not.
And you wouldn't miss them writing a picture about you and sharing it.
I have 40 kids in my classroom. You cannot tell me
she was at their computer. She was at their computer. She was at their computer.
All 40 of them.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The people on the other side of the room might get away with it, but she wasn't on the other side of the room. It's not realistic. It's just not in the position that they put her in the room, the direction she was walking and looking when all of it happened.
Yeah. And that's, and I like I said, I saw the same thing, felt the same way, but you just got to try doubly hard to suspend disbelief so that they could push this plot forward and get this girl even more upset with the earth.
Yeah, I got over it fast. Yeah. It actually bothers it bothers me less than I sound, but I know it's driving Amy crazy, and she's going to yell at me in a minute. And she actually extended my hatred for the scene by arguing with me for 45 minutes.
We had a good
class.
Back and forth.
Oh well, if this has been going on a lot longer, then in the words of William Shatner, man, get a life.
So I did want to talk about, because I did mention that I am teaching math to 40 kids in a very small room. And then to see this very beautiful, how open was the classroom? I don't even know how many kids were there. It wasn't closed. It was very spacious. There was at least 5-6 feet in between students. Oh my gosh, to have that kind of space. But again, I wouldn't be able to see all of them at the same time like I do in my classroom. But I was like, that's pretty awesome. And it seemed like there were different teachers monitoring different parts of the school. And I liked the idea that it came across to me that the kids were working sort of more independently. That I think is, I know a lot of schools have tried to do that. Now in public education, that's not going to happen. I see that happening more in charter and private schools. I really liked the direction that I got to see where education could be here in this short. And I was very happy to see that type of work and the students working independently.
We had a school just like that in New York City that my sister went to, actually. It was Robert F. Kennedy, and they weren't as spaced out. The children weren't as spaced out because they worked in groups more often than not. However, there was a north, south, east, and west. And it was a corner. I don't know why they used north, south, east, and west, because it was corners, and none of them faced in the directions they claimed. However, they didn't. South was at northeast, and it was ridiculous. But in this school, there was 8 teachers in the room with like 65 students in the room. But each corner was a completely separate class that had nothing to do with the other classes. And each corner had a teacher and a teacher's aide, I guess. It probably wasn't 2 teachers. I didn't go to that school. I didn't even apply to go to that school. My sister did because it came around when she got to 5th grade. And it went from 5th grade through high school and end of high school. The application process for that was really weird. They wanted the most average students they could find. They didn't want really, really smart ones, and they didn't want ones who tested really, really low. They wanted to find as close to average as possible because it was a test school. And they found that they were able to take this group of extremely average people and make them well above average with this system. And you would think, sitting in a room like that the other classes would be really distracting, but they're not for the kids at all.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear. The only comparison that I had to make was with that type of education was there's a school, Ken, I don't know if you're familiar, Exeter. It's in Massachusetts, super private. But, president's children go there, rich of the rich, best of the best. But I have had 3 years training from Exeter teachers and how they teach math, which is so completely different than how I'm being told that I have to teach math. Like it's integrated, it's problem solving, it's, here's a question. Why don't you figure out how to do it? And then the teacher is a guide. And it's like, oh, have you tried this or have you thought of this? Just sort of guiding them to actually discover the math that it's supposed to, and then they're going to get it in their memory. Anyways, I could go on and on, but I wish that we could get public education to that point of kids learning for themselves instead of this being told from the teacher. I could go on and on. This is not a teacher podcast, but
but
yeah, go ahead.
But that's the difference between now and then. Is the idea is that in the future they're going to teach people how to think, not how to regurgitate answers, methods, and that's the problem with schooling today. Is that it's good teachers are being forced to teach in kind of whatever ways to get the kids to pass tests because those tests are used against the teachers, which I don't believe should happen. But that's besides the point. They're being used. And hopefully by then we've evolved in our way of teaching children that we no longer necessarily worry so much about the answer. It's more about how they're getting to the answer.
Yeah, and I see that, and I'm hoping that we can change the tide of education in that, like, the curriculum that I have to get through in 1 year is insane. It's way too much. If we, and nowadays, kids have Google on their phone, right? You're going to Google the answer. But how to think for yourselves, how to come up, how to problem solve. Like these are the skills that me teaching them I can't even say it because it'll come back at me. But me teaching them the quadratic formula is not going to be helpful. What's more helpful is for them to understand the importance of it and how to derive it and why it came to pass. Like, that's where the learning and the education is, because now you can just Google, hey, Siri, what's the quadratic formula? Sorry if all of your Siris just went off, but
nope, headphones.
So I think that needs to happen. That shift needs to happen. And right now it is still, I am being forced to teach and to shove all this information down my kids' throats, and they're just not learning how to think.
So bringing this back to this short, you would think that these kids were taught to think, right? Which would lead them not to get to this point in the story where they're literally waiting for a fist fight. But apparently Star Trek believes that's not true. I'm on their side on this. I believe that's not true either. I believe as long as you have two humans, you're never going to get to the point where you don't have any fighting whatsoever. I know that's not the point Star Trek's trying to make up until recent, but that's my take on humanity.
Well, and it is interesting that they're showing absentee parenting.
Yeah, well, that is interesting. Because the parents are off on Mars when this is happening.
At least one that we see.
Right.
Yeah.
Which that kind of hits home because I work 2 jobs and I'm out till 10 o'clock at night, so I don't see my kids during the week at all. And,
but yet they still behave. I've met them, I know.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I don't think kids doing this, I don't think are the worst kids in the world either. Like, these aren't hardened criminals, they're kids, I can tell you stories about kids bullying my son for 2 years before he defended himself. That's why I say this is really not the traditional bullying story. And Ken, earlier you said we don't tolerate bullying, and I would love to believe that, but the fact is schools kind of do, because they typically punish the person who retaliates, because that's who they catch. The bully's really good at getting away with it. The bully also, even watch like a hockey game, they usually don't catch the first guy. They give a penalty to the second guy because that's the one they see. The first time anyone ever got in trouble at my kid's school that I know of for bullying, I got the phone call. Oh, your son punched a kid. Well, did he punch Daniel? Well, yeah. Oh, I wonder how I knew that one. 'Cause 2 years, Daniel was beating up my kid.
Yeah, it's a complex.
We should take that name out. I think Daniel's daddy listens.
It's a complex situation for sure.
It is. I like I said before, I just, there's a lot of elements of Star Trek that I don't think are realistic, but would love to see happen, right? It is fantasy, and they do many times contradict their own kind of philosophical approach to it. And then a lot of it's been built up pretty heavy by the fans too. So there's that part of it. It was never really stated exactly where and how all these things came to be until later on. And it still isn't 100% like, oh, this is what happened in order. We understand the Zephyr Cochrane and First Contact started the ball rolling, but how did we really get there step by step to eliminate all these things? But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just getting back to the show itself. I think to your original point, Patrick, it does reflect what's going on today. I think it did that very well. Whether that's Star Trek's job, quote unquote, or not, sometimes it does that, as you guys say, bonk bonk on the head, and sometimes it's an allegory, and sometimes it's, we can't believe that you guys acted this way. Look at how we act today. Kind of, in a rear view mirror type of approach to it. But overall, I thought it was like I said, Star Trek or not, I thought it was a brilliant 6-minute video.
Yeah.
Every
element of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really liked it too. And, we can see we just had a great discussion. And for me, being a teacher, it just really hit home on so many different levels. And, sort of talking and seeing these rogue synths sort of brought up some ideas, and it's going to be interesting to see where Picard takes this. The show, not actual Jean-Luc Picard, but, I felt such an emotional connection to this short where I didn't get that with the animation, the two, previously. I liked the Michael one more than Ephraim and Dot, but this one definitely connected with me, and I really, really did enjoy this short.
I really liked this one. I really liked the girl who made the stars. I didn't care for Ephraim and Dot at all. But I would say, I think this one I liked more because it's not an animation. Although